Hi guys, my name is Lucia, and today I want to talk about how the makeup industry is changing, for better or for worse. I have touched on stuff like this in previous videos. I'm pretty sure I've seen other people talk about this, but I really wanted to make a video where I lay down what I believe to be the things that are changing. When you look at the makeup industry and the makeup community, it's obviously very subjective as to your age, where you live, just really everything about you that makes you you. So I can only talk from my perspective. I have been doing makeup for about 4 years now, which is not that long compared to a lot of people that are in the comment section, but that is what I know. And even in those 4 years, a lot has changed. So I will talk about the makeup industry itself and YouTube. I don't think I'm gonna go too much into YouTube. If you want a separate video on how the beauty community has changed, wow, can I talk about that for so long? Let me know down below, but let's get into it. The blanket statement I would like to say about the makeup industry is the stakes are higher. I've talked about this before, that there is more stuff coming out than ever before. There are more brands, which leads to more things being produced. There are way more influence than ever before. There's just more everything, which makes the stakes higher. You have to stand out much more in order to be original than you did, say, 10 years ago. However, though you want to stand out, there are very, very specific trends that happen that you should also be following. In my head, this starts with the Naked palette. It might start earlier than that, it probably does, but in my head, from when I started getting into makeup, the Naked palette came out, every brand tried to imitate that. Then Modern Renaissance came out, and we had this crazy frenzy of warm colors and warm eyeshadows, orange tones, and now the whole purple frenzy is coming out. So brands are trying to be original, but also following the trends of what people are interested in, and this can be seen for anything. The rainbow highlight trend that came out, the liquid lipstick trend that came out, the trend of making everything mermaids and unicorns. There are so many examples of this, and I think it can be confusing to look at and say, where can I find something that's truly original, when every brand really wants to sell stuff and they want to stand out, but they are following these very specific trends. The next thing that is changing is where the power lies within the makeup industry. Before YouTube, before Instagram, the makeup industry power lied solely with the people who were making the makeup. They would put ads out, there were commercials, and you know, that was kind of it. And now, so much power has been passed down to creators. If you come out with a palette and it looks really exciting, that's great, but if you don't have influencers that are talking about it in a nice light, then you lose a vast majority of your audience. Now, I'm not saying that the only people who use makeup watch YouTube or go on Instagram, but for the purpose of this video, I am referring to the makeup industry within the YouTube community, because that's the community that we're in. That's why you're subscribed to this channel. That's why I make this channel. You get the idea. Now, because of this, like I said, the stakes are higher. Brands want influencers to like not only the products, but like the brand. Brands will try to reach and persuade influencers by either sending them PR, sending them on brand trips, but also just by having a stronger presence on the internet. If you like a brand and they comment on your picture, you're probably gonna feel really validated and want to buy their stuff more. There is this new power dynamic within social media that we definitely did not have before. We as consumers have more say than we ever had within the makeup industry, which means that we are more critical. Of course, not all of us are critical, but I certainly am, and if you're subscribed to me, you probably are interested in hearing that critical side. We have begun to question brands instead of blindly saying, I love your brand, here's my money, let me buy everything. We have begun to say, who's behind that brand? What do you stand for? What are you putting in your makeup? Where is this makeup being made? For example, a lot of people have gone cruelty-free. A lot of people are boycotting Kat Von D. A lot of people boycott brands that don't have good shade ranges. Because we have way more choices of what to buy, we can be way more picky about what products we want to buy. More choices with makeup means more decisions, and it means you can be more cutthroat and still get the products that you want. Another thing that I wouldn't say it's is changing, but it's arising, is all the drama in the makeup community. Now, I was not alive doing makeup 20 years ago. I can't tell you if there was drama, but I can't imagine there is the type of drama there is today within not influencers, but just the makeup community. Just like I said, you can now have a personal connection to the brand and who's behind it. Of course, not all brands let you do this. I'm sure that you can find out who's behind most brands, but people like Kat Von D, Jeffree Star, they're at the face of their brand. I would argue that for the first time, the makeup industry is not just about makeup, it's about politics. It's about your beliefs. It's about, do I want to support this person? Do I want to give this money to this person? What do I stand for in terms of cruelty-free status and the drama behind things? And I don't know if I trust this person. And I think it's really interesting to watch that happen. What do you guys think about this? Makeup has gotten so political, and YouTube has certainly gotten that way too. It's just interesting. I think it was bound to happen eventually. Again, I don't know if it was like this 20 years ago, but as of 4 or 5 years ago when I started getting into the makeup industry, it was not like this. Little 14-year-old Lucia would have been way more overwhelmed if this is the type of stuff that I was walking into as a newbie to makeup. Because the stakes are higher, the makeup industry has gotten more inclusive. We now have better shade ranges. We are seeing more models of people of color than we did before. Now, we are not there yet by any means. The makeup industry is not at the place yet where it is all-inclusive at all. But we're still doing better than ever before. It is on the uprise, and I am proud to say that I can watch that happen. I can think back to a time when that wasn't something that was being talked about by the vast majority of people, even though it's always been an issue. And now I am glad that we are talking about that and we are saying this needs to change. And it is changing because, like I said, the power dynamic is different. We have way more power than we used to. Sure, the consumers have always been the ones to give their money over, but with these platforms that we make, we have the ability to talk to thousands of people and tell them what brands we think are good and what brands we don't think are good. This next thing, I wouldn't say it's a change, I would just say that it's intensified, and that is the idea that more is more. That's what the industry promotes all the time. If you sign up for newsletters for any brand or Ulta or Sephora, they will always send you things you need, must have, buy this before it's gone, limited edition, blah, blah, blah. More is more. Now, there are obviously people like myself trying to combat that. Anti-hauls have become a thing. It's kind of interesting. I think that with the rise of more is more has also become the rise of conscious consumerism, anti-consumerism, but that doesn't mean that the people who are promoting more is more are necessarily caring what people like me say. Too Faced doesn't care if I tell you not to buy their palette. They don't care. They're still gonna have a ton of people buy their palette. And it's very interesting to see these sub-communities within the makeup industry, the Project Panic community, the people who still do a ton of hauls, and the big beauty gurus, the anti-hauls. There are more sections because it's not easy to keep up. Like I said, things are being produced in rapids amount. I remember a time when I basically knew of every new thing with makeup that was coming out, at least at Sephora. Obviously, there are so many brands it would be impossible to know, but for the most part, I watched most reviews that came out about new things. It was not that hard to keep up, at least with the big things. Now it's like, I go on Trend Mood every day and I'm like, I had no idea this was out. How can you possibly keep up with everything? Another change is the rise of indie brands because people want originality. Like I mentioned in the beginning, there are all these makeup trends that people are trying to follow, but a large amount of the makeup consumers don't want the same thing over and over again, and it thrills us to see indie brands. The big thing that comes to mind is the Ace Beauty palettes that were launched recently. The makeup industry went crazy. The people who are buying makeup were loving this, and this is from a smaller brand. That's just one example. There are tons of examples of indie brands that are really on the rise. Along with that is the idea that the makeup industry is becoming more individualized, whereas before you might have to give up what you want and buy something that maybe doesn't have all of your needs. Now you can create your own palettes, you can buy singles. You have so many brands to choose from. If you don't see something at Sephora, go to Ulta. If you don't see something at Ulta, look on Trendmood. There's probably something. It's becoming more about what each person individually wants, which is why people like me are tired of seeing all the same trends over and over and over again. The makeup industry has broken boundaries that were definitely in place around 5 years ago. There was a more singular track that the makeup industry was headed on. There were singular trends, whereas now things have layers and you have options. What I mean by this is brands like MAC, the Naked Palette, NARS Sheer Glow Foundation. These were all things that you either owned or you wanted to own. If you didn't have them, it was kind of like, why don't you have that? That's a big cult classic. And things like that don't exist anymore, at least I believe. Now, I know whenever I mention this, I get a lot of people saying, how dare you say MAC isn't as big as it was before, but it's not. It's just not. I think that it still has the same amount of people before, but MAC does not have that power. Like I said, power is distributed through many, many sources. I would like to look back in 5 years and think about today and think, were there any cult classics? Because I don't think there are. Now, you are welcome to disagree with me in the comments. In fact, I would really love to hear what you guys think of that, but when I, again, think of that time, I think of very specific things. Now, I can think of trends that have happened, but I can't think of one palette right now that everybody has. Okay, maybe the last palette that happened with was the Modern Renaissance, but even that was almost 3 years ago. Times are changing and fast. Where do we go from here? The makeup industry is not slowing down. It is getting faster and faster, and I think that more and more people will hop on board to the conscious consumerism train, or at least that's what I hope. That's why I'm here. Now, I'm gonna get into what I personally think, but I would love to hear, leave your comments down below. What's good, what's bad? Is it less black and white? I think that there is good and bad to it. I do miss the times when there were cult classics and there weren't so many things coming out all the time, because it's so overwhelming. I feel like we are being hit over the head with all these new releases, but at the same time, there's so much good that's coming from it. I love that, for example, I have a say. I never thought that I would have a channel that was successful. I was successful in my own way, but I never thought I would have so many of you guys watching and listening to what I'm saying. I feel like my voice is heard within the community, and that can be for so many people. I love that we are progressing. I love that we are starting to get more inclusive with the makeup, and I do love the options. And that's where I'm kind of stuck, because I don't miss not having enough options, but I miss not having to be so overwhelmed by everything that's coming out. The fact of the matter is, this is how it is now, and I don't think it will ever get back to a point where it's not being produced in massive amounts. That is how the makeup industry is now, unless something drastically changes, and I think that we just have to be more conscious about that, and you know, that's what I'm doing here. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. I know I just said a lot of certain stuff. If you disagree with anything I said, I would love to hear your thoughts. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.